Like, I don't even know what to say anymore, man. What do you want me to say?
There's always next year.
For the win! Bogdanovich! The open shot. Look, it's the play. Are you? Goes for Bonga. Miracle. To the playoffs.
Hello, welcome back to the Eastman Sport Report, your father-son coach-player podcast about the Sacramento Kings and San Francisco 49ers. I'm your host, Max Eastman, joined once again by my co-host, Steven Eastman.
Hello, Max. How you doing out there? Hey, all the listeners out there. Welcome.
I'm doing good.
Doing good? It's Christmas season?
Oh, I'm doing good, not necessarily sports-wise, but I'm doing good, like, general-wise.
General-wise. Kings are doing decent.
Yeah.
They're on a winning streak. So we are it's Christmas season, so we're in our Christmas sweaters. I picked the Kings first, and then he got the Niners one. He got the Niners hat, though, so we're festive. Yeah. It's let's see, today we're recording on the 15th, so we're 10 days before Christmas.
I don't know what that is on the
sports calendar.
The 12 days of Christmas calendar. I don't know how many birds do I have now? Like 60?
Let's see what you got. The first day is your partridge in a church tree, 2 turtle doves. What's the third one? Hens? Is it? Max is gonna.
Well, I know that at the end of all of this, you get 168 birds. That is too many birds.
100 birds. Max, do you have 6 birds by now?
3 French hens.
Oh, 3 French hens is today.
4 calling birds.
Oh, okay. I was thinking the calling birds. Okay, 3 French hens. So you're up to 6 birds you got right now.
Too many birds.
Okay. Well, before we get into other things, yes, it has been a few weeks since we've recorded a podcast because, our lives are a little busy between my work. Mostly his basketball season, though.
I play basketball now. I shoot the ball. I rebound.
Yeah, you've got 8 games you've played so far. Your team is they've played 9. You missed 1, so you're 3-6 so far on the season.
Yeah, and
you've scored a total of 21 points, averaging 2.6 per game.
That's not the point.
21 total. He is 1 for 1 for 3. He made a really nice 3 in the Lodi tournament. That was really good. He does have 68 rebounds over 8 games, averaging, about 8.5 rebounds a game. So he is one of the big guys playing defense. He gets a few buckets every game.
I think I've only been scored on, 4 times in the past week.
Yeah.
So.
And you did have this last week. You had 3 games. The funny thing was the Thursday night.
Yes.
The Kings were playing, game started at 5.
Yes.
Niners game started at 5:15, and your game started at 7:30. So
we watched the start of the Niners-Rams games, and then we got to the basketball game, and then we made sure not to wear any Niners stuff.
So I wore the Kings sweater.
He wore the Kings sweater
at the game that night.
To the game. So because you wanted to wear the Niners sweater because it's the Niners game, but you don't want to get spoiled what happens.
Yeah, because somebody's bound to come up and tell you about the game. And I know there was a parent behind us watching the game.
And what we did right after the game was get out of there as quick as we can.
Yeah, and then we went home and watched the Niners game. Watched the rest of the Rams game.
I did pick the Niners, sadly.
Yeah, we both were more optimistic. Anyway, that's the recap of your team and your coach player podcast. He is a player, in case you want to know. You can follow Max Eastman on Max Preps.
Don't do that. That's stalking.
Okay, well, if you really wanted to, he is out there, and see how him and his team's doing. Okay, so moving over to the Niners. Let's see. So we haven't had a podcast since the Packers game, which was a cold game. Oh, and from a podcast perspective, we'll get to the primetime picks later. Before that game started, we had recorded an episode.
We did record an episode.
And we said Niners, we both picked Niners over Packers.
And then the next day, it gets announced that Brock Purdy's not playing.
It was a few days later. But anyway,
a few days later. Brock Purdy's not playing. Nick Bosa's not playing. Trent Williams not playing. So we both went to each other and went, At
the exact same time, we both said, it was almost weird. We both walked in, and it was the day, it was Friday, when both Purdy, Bosa, and Williams were both out, and we both says, we change our picks. So, we did change our picks.
With future insight. We changed our picks, and
So
we chose the Packers.
Chose the Packers from Primetime Pick's perspective. That was a
sad game.
That's exactly the word I was thinking of. Sad game to put it.
It's just what do you want us to
Middle of the first quarter, it was 17-0. Packers had 33 plays to our 6. Yeah, it was sad. I don't even know what to say about the Packers game. Then we went to the because Brandon Allen was our quarterback, which I still think Dobbs should be our backup quarterback, but that's not. I'm not the quarterback.
That's not.
Type of thing. And then you had the Niners playing the snow game against Buffalo.
We also both picked the Bills on that one because we were like,
Yeah, that was like a schedule one because you traveled to Green Bay, you were cold, you went all the way back home, and then you went to the Sunday night game against Buffalo.
And also, Buffalo's just a better team than us right now. So
Yeah.
that was a no-brainer pick.
Yeah. Now,
what I didn't pick was how bad it was going to be and how Christian McCaffrey's going to tear his PCL.
yeah.
So
Yeah, the funny thing was like he was like that game, he finally started to have a burst. Like he was looking like he was going to turn things around. It's like he's finally starting to get somewhere with it. And that game was
close until McCaffrey got injured.
Yeah. And both teams were just running because in that type of thing, the defensive linemen, you could not get any sort of traction. There was defensive linemen falling down all over the place. Offensive linemen knew what they were doing. I thought it'd be a little more high scoring, especially on the Niners side, than it was. But it was not. So anyway, that was ended up being another sad game. 2 back-to-back sad games for the Niners. Then you had the Bears game.
Bears game was great. I loved watching the Bears game.
That was an awesome game.
That was a great game.
Yeah.
I felt good watching the Niners.
I know.
Finally.
That looked like the Niners you expected all season. 38 points, just
I don't-
total
I don't-
domination.
I
in the
don't
first
care.
half.
I don't care that it's the Bears and they've lost. I think it's 8, 7, something like that straight.
Yeah, but when you have at halftime, you have 319 yards to the Bears total of 4. Like they had 4 yards total. They had 5 punts, so more punts than total yardage or net yardage. They did have 1 first down. Caleb Williams was sacked 4 times in the first half. Like, just total domination. And continue on in the second half. So that was a beautiful game.
That was a great
probably
game
the
to
best
watch.
game
Yes.
we've ever had all season.
That was the only game where I left and I was like, okay, I can leave. I'm not going to worry about the Niners.
Yeah, so that was feeling good. And you're like, okay, we have slim playoff hopes at that time.
It's not 0.
It wasn't 0. It was like I think somebody was saying like 11% chance.
Yes.
You're like, okay, there was a path, and I was playing with the NFL playoff machine where you can go pick things. There was a path for them to still make the playoffs.
And like the Niners, like how they looked in that game, if they could keep that going, that would be really easy for us to make the playoffs.
And if you think about it, you're like, that's exactly what we kind of thought all season is they're going to kind of, with the Super Bowl hangover, they're going to middle through this first half of the season, and they're going to turn around at the end, make the playoffs. And we've done it before where you middle around and then you make a run, and we get to the NFC Championship game. Like, we've done that before.
Yes.
And we thought with the Bears game, we're going on that path. Like, the offense would finally start clicking. Like, the run game was there. The pass game was like the Bears have like the number 5 defense and like efficiency rating. Like, they're good defense. And everything was looking good. Like, people were getting wide open. Purdy was looking awesome. Like, we were just moving up and down the field.
Isaac Arendo, the 3rd string running back.
Yes, where we started the season, technically he's our 4th because you had McCaffrey. Elijah Mitchell never even played this season. He's technically your 2nd. Mason was the 3rd.
How are we
then we're in Garendo.
And then I forget who.
Patrick Taylor is
Patrick
the 5th.
Taylor got reps.
Yeah. And we signed Isaac A.
Something.
Was it Isaac or is it Isaiah?
I don't know.
Anyway, we signed a guy off the Jets off a thing. He still hasn't played because he's learning the thing. But whatever. We had to sign another player and bring back Keyshawn
Can
Vaughn.
Frank Gore play? I feel like he would do something in this offense.
He probably could.
Just a little. Not a lot, just a little.
He could do better than you and me, that's for sure.
That's not.
Anyway, so, yeah, 'cause we never both, neither one of us played football.
He's Frank Gore, Dad.
Yeah, he's Frank Gore. But yeah, you could bring Jerry Rice in there, and he looks like he could still play
No.
a couple snaps.
He's too old. he can do a comeback route, and that's it.
Yeah, he could probably make it be a slant pass. He could do a slant pass.
If he gets tackled, he's done.
Especially tackled hard. Anyway, Bears game was looking awesome. Then we had the Rams game.
The Rams game started out great. The Rams didn't have a first down the entire first quarter.
Yeah. And from that perspective...
Can I say one thing?
Oh, go ahead.
The energy on defense from Drake Greenlaw just existing there.
Totally awesome. Like, the defense was... if you think about it, we've had, like... We'll get to some of the tragedies we had this season, but, like, we had Treverius Ward and Lenore, and you had Green, our rookie, as your nickel quarterback. You had the whole secondary. Hufunga was back.
Yes.
You had... Bosa was back on the defensive line. You had Greenlaw in the linebacker.
And Warner, with whatever is happening with his ankle, he can actually rest a little bit because he knows that his Superman to his Batman is out there.
Yeah. And you're like, technically the only starter that you're missing going into the game that you probably would have checked at the beginning of the season was Hargrave.
Yeah.
Like Javon Hargrave. Like, technically the rest of the defense, I'm thinking off the top of my head, like, I'm pretty sure the rest of the defense was pretty much there.
Wasn't Mustafa not there?
Yes, but you're like Mustafa. At the beginning of the season, you probably would have picked Jair Brown was going to be your starter anyway.
Yeah.
Now
okay.
Mustafa, I think he's probably real neck and neck, but playing a little better than Jair Brown. But either way, you're like you had Jair Brown, who was your starter at the beginning of the season. Who Funga should have been your starter. You can start at the beginning of the season. Like, it was pretty close to your best defensive personnel, and they dominated the first half. Like, the Rams finally scored at the end of the half and finally got a field goal. Now, the offense is a whole other story, but the defensive energy was great. Like, especially where the Rams came from the week before, they were playing the Bills and scored 44 points. Like,
that was just
like defense was exactly what you expected from the defense. Like going into the season, you expected the pressure to not be there as much because, frankly, we need more defensive linemen, we need more pass rushers.
Yeah,
but the secondary was doing great between that's what everybody was saying at the beginning of the season. Like, from the secondary back, which includes the linebackers when you're pass protecting, when you have Greenlaw and Warner out there, and the linebackers out there, and even D. Winters is kind of fast. He's a decent, pretty good covered linebacker. That's what we expected out of our team all year.
And then
the second half happened.
You could see very clearly. I know that Greenlaw was on a snap count, but I thought that they were going to play him more because of how good he was playing.
Well, did you hear he said his knee felt weird, and
I didn't
so
hear that.
he's like, out of precaution, he's like, my knee felt weird, which is probably because he hasn't pushed himself in like 10 months, and so like you're compensating from things. So you're like, okay, I went hard and like my knee feels weird before I heard it. I'm gonna sit down. And his Achilles felt tight, but you're like, yeah, I've had Achilles problems. And you're like, yeah, you probably feel good for a while. And then you're like, okay, yeah, I probably shouldn't, that's why he was on a snap count.
There was a visible difference on the defense, energy-wise and, like, playmaking-wise. I'm going to say halfway through the third quarter and for the rest of the game.
Which is when Greenlaw went out.
Of just sapping the energy away.
Yeah, and then with everybody else back, they were playing better.
Yes.
But this gets back to, if you listen back to old podcasts, little things like, if Greenlaw doesn't get injured, I am 99% confident we win the Super Bowl.
Does not.
Niners would win the Super Bowl if Greenlaw doesn't get hurt. Because as soon as Greenlaw goes out of the Super Bowl, Travis Kelce comes alive.
The first thing that comes out of any of the Chiefs players when they see that, Patrick Mahomes goes, 57 is down.
We're going. And the Niners defense was playing like that's Greenlaw makes that big of a difference on our defense, or different. That's a big enough difference on our defense. Like Warner and Greenlaw, it's like the way our defense is schematically lined up is you have the wide nine.
Yes.
You have to have two really good linebackers. And the other thing is, if you're going to have coverage and keep two linebackers on the field, they have to be able to not only play the run and then drop back into the pass.
Yes.
And Greenlaw and Warner are excellent at that. Like, last year, like the two of them together was one of the best linebacking duos in the league. Multiple people would say on that. So that's not just us. But you're like, he makes that big of a difference. Now, the bad thing is his contract's up at the end of the season, and can we afford him next year? But if you see the importance of him, we kind of need to somehow.
I think because of his injury, his asking price is going to go down from other teams
Probably, and the other Niners are going to say we really need you.
Mm-hmm.
But in some ways, like if we're looking at next year, which in some ways the season's pretty much over. We got 3 games left, and we're not making the playoffs.
We have a
technically
we have a 0.1% chance of making it, and that if the Rams lose all of their remaining games. That's if the Cardinals lose all of their remaining games. That's if the Seahawks lose all their remaining games.
And the Seahawks and the Rams play each other, so it's like you'd have to look at the tiebreakers of who you want to.
I think it would be the Rams.
You have the Rams beat the Seahawks.
No. Yeah, I think it would have to be the Rams losing because we have a tie
with the
Seahawks.
Yeah. Anyway,
so we have a very small chance of getting the playoffs. We can, but we're not.
Yeah, you're like it's like one of those things like you're telling me there's a chance, and we're like, yeah, no, there's not really a chance.
No.
I think they might get eliminated this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, since we're recording this on a Sunday afternoon, the Seahawks are playing.
That's
the
Sunday Night
Vikings.
Football. No, Seahawks are playing the Packers.
Oh, Vikings are next week, I think. And that's Sunday Night Football, so it's not on right now. Okay, so we don't know how that's going. I'm assuming the Packers are going to win that game, and therefore, technically, that helps the Niners, but not really. Anyway, so the second half happens against the Rams, and the defense was not bad. You never gave up a touchdown. But is it time to talk the offense?
There are 2 things that I could see besides just us not clicking on offense wise. Well, 3 things actually. But first of all, Deebo Samuel, what are you doing? What happened, man? That I could say a lot of things. But what else can be said? You can't catch a ball. You're leading the league in drops. You're going out on Twitter and saying I'm not suffering. I just need to get the ball more.
And what did they do? They forced him the ball at the beginning of the game.
Did it work?
No.
Why?
Yeah, he had I think almost the most touches in the game, and I'm sorry, he's a really high paid kick returner right now. The best plays you get out of him are his kick returns, which he's had a couple of good ones. I'll give him that.
He had the one good play he had was a kick return against the Rams. From the Rams game was his kick return.
And wasn't the Packers game he had a long one, it was 90-something yards, but it was called back from a penalty. Anyway, I thought they could have actually got back into the game in that Packers game, but that's a long time ago.
How do you I don't want to talk about the third down drop pass because what do you say except for catch the ball?
Yeah.
It went through your hands, hit you in the chest.
Yeah, it's right here. It's perfect pass.
It was a perfect pass. There's literally nothing wrong you could say about it.
Yeah.
And you drop it.
Uh-huh.
You're Deebo Samuel. Catch the ball.
Yeah.
The only players that were trying to do stuff was Juwan Jennings, who couldn't catch because his gloves were wet that day. He was catching some things, but he was being double teamed the entire time because they went, "Oh, Deebo does. It doesn't matter what Deebo does because he's just going to drop everything."
Well, yeah, and it's you need him, and you're he's supposed to be one of your best. But I'm if I look into the future cabal, I don't know. I think this might be the last 3 games of Deebo Samuel on the team. I don't know if he's going to be back next year. Seriously, now the only thing that might be is
unless he takes accountability for him doing bad,
but
which he hasn't been. I don't see a reason why he stays here.
But it's a contract thing. To me, it's a contract thing. We're gonna have to pay Purdy. Which
we're already paying Ayuk a lot of money.
Yeah,
we have to pay Greenlaw and Purdy this season.
Mm-hmm. And you're if you're not worth the money, which he's not, you either need to take a pay cut or you have to go. And you're I'm sorry, but you're not worth that much money. Maybe you're worth half that, but I doubt he's going to take that much of a pay cut. And he's kind of, how old is Brock Purdy or Deebo Samuel? But he seems too young to be. I think he's 28, 29.
Age. He's 28.
28.
He was drafted in the 2019 draft.
But his birthday's in January. So he would be 29 and a half next year, which he's starting to lose a step. Which this is why when you become a wide back and you run and you get injuries like he does, this takes stuff out of you. Running backs have a shorter life. And I think that's what's happening to Deebo Samuel.
Okay.
Anyway,
I want to move on from Deebo Samuel
Okay,
because
go
there's a lot of things that I could complain about Deebo Samuel, but I'm not going to.
go ahead.
The second thing I want to talk about for the Rams game, and that I've seen throughout the season as well, Kyle Shanahan needs to evolve his play calling in some way, because he's been really good in bunch formations and spreading out the offense and having good running back that doesn't have having a running back and being able to get 100 yards out of them every single game.
Mm-hmm.
He's not doing that anymore because he's been playing the same offense for how many years? He took it from his dad, Mike Shanahan.
Now, he's evolved it, but still.
Somewhat. But it's basically the same exact offense that he ran with the Atlanta Falcons all the way back then.
Well, and the other thing is because it's so good and it has been good, like the Dolphins run his offense, the Rams technically run his offense, the Texans run his offense.
Teams know how to guard it now.
The Packers run a similar version of it. The Jets run a similar version of it. So
Well, they did until they didn't.
Well, either way, you have all these other teams that are running a very similar offense.
So teams know how to guard it now.
Yeah, it's not as unique and different, and you kind of need to reinvent yourself.
You don't have to make special play. You don't have to make special decisions for playing against Kyle Shanahan. You just go, we're playing a Kyle Shanahan type offense.
Yeah.
We do this.
But the other
it's
thing,
just killing us because we can't do anything on offense.
And the Chiefs showed last year that if you put man, which goes a little bit of Debo, like man, he cannot beat man. One, Jennings is big and strong. He can. Brandon Ayuk can. Well, he's out this season.
Brandon Ayuk is fast. He can outrun people.
And Pearsall was supposed to be our thing, and I think Pearsall is he didn't get a training camp.
Because he got injured, and then he got shot.
Yeah. So, like, his development is slower. Like, they have to develop the offense of how to do man beaters. Which, in those ways, you have to do the rub, not pick plays. Basketball, you can do picks. In football, you cannot. They have to do more rub plays, more of those types of plays, because they're not getting the yardage of separation is one of the
is the worst in the league.
Yeah, like the amount of separation and open passes. So Brock Purdy's having to fit in the more type windows because the offense is not evolving. You also see there's less misdirection. Like, why did they go away from that? Like, normal Shanahan offenses, you run up and you run the same starting play, and then there's like 3 variations of it. We don't see all the variations as much anymore. I don't know why. Anyway, so I totally agree with you on the Shanahan's offense needs to evolve next season.
And my last thing that I want to say that I've been seeing through the season, and I also kind of talked about this to you, is that this year is Brock Purdy's sophomore slump. Because his first year was a rookie year, but he didn't play all of it. He played 4 games in the regular season. 4 games in the regular season? He played 5 games in the regular season. He played 3 in the playoffs. One of them he blew out his elbow, so he
didn't play that game.
So he was a handoff guy that game.
Yeah.
So he can do anything. And then basically his rookie year, which was last year, he played at an MVP level. He was the favorite for MVP until we played against Lamar Jackson, and he threw 4 picks.
And even from a QBR perspective, Purdy's still doing good.
Yeah, he's still a really good quarterback.
Yeah,
he's not playing bad.
He's worth the money, but but he is doing a little bit of slump. So
my thing is, I've seen through the past few games, is that he's trying to play hero ball. It's a thing that I see, whether it's with the Kings, whether it's with the Niners, whether it's my own sports teams. It's a player seeing that their team is not playing how it should, and and a run is happening on the other side. So they try to play hero ball and get the big play to change momentum. And he throws an interception that way, like the Rams game. He tried to change the momentum by throwing the deep ball to Juwan Jennings, which he has done many times this season. Many times before to Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel or George Kittle or Christian McCaffrey. But he couldn't do that.
If you want to know, so Brock Purdy is 9th in QBR, according to ESPN. He's right in between. Technically, he's better than Patrick Mahomes in a QBR.
That's not surprising.
And he's right there behind Jalen Hurts. And not
Patrick
too far
Mahomes is playing not great football, except for today. He played. They won 21-7.
Yeah.
But that's because
Anyway, so like Brock
That's not the
Purdy's not playing bad.
he just
but
needs,
his wide receivers are not getting open.
He's trying to make the big plays. He's not trying to make the right plays, which I say to my teammates sometimes as well. We're trying to make the big plays that are flashy, that are fun, instead of just making the right plays of passing to the open man, getting around the court, and that, you know what? Yards after the catch can be a good thing. You don't have to throw these deep balls perfectly down into the man's basket every single time. If Isaac Garendil was wide open in the middle, check it down to him.
Yeah, take your 5 yards. He might turn it into 15, and let him. You go to the next down. The other thing, if you watch the game, there's a lot of video clips I've seen online of this last Niners-Rams game. Is first off, Deebo Samuel tackled Garendo on a play.
Yeah,
like. He started in motion at the exact same time that the snap happened, and they ran into each other. There was other plays that the offensive linemen were off. Like, this is like the worst offensive lineman play for the whole season. Like, Pooney's been great, and he had his worst game of the season. Like, the whole offensive line did not block good, from passive protection to run blocking. Like, the run blocking couldn't get going. So seems like the whole offense was a total offensive team meltdown, which is exact contrast to the Bears game. The Bears game was everything was clicking, everything was moving, and technically the Bears had a better defense. Like, the Rams were like 24th, I think, in efficiency rating. The Bears were like 5th. Like that should have been the exact opposite. But it is what it is, and the Rams beat us, and now we're pretty much looking for next offseason. So we'll get into in future episodes what we think the Niners should do in the offseason, how we should retool. I don't think it's a complete rebuild, but they're definitely going to need some new players. Contracts are going to have to be doing things. Like, I don't think Charvarius Ward's going to be back. We have not talked about one, which is Campbell.
I don't want to talk about him. Get off my team. Stay far away from my team.
If you go back to just briefly about this, this was the big talk after the game. But it's like, if you go through the whole Niners season, not only has it been a challenging season, you got Ricky Pearsall, who's literally shot. You have Charvarius Ward, who lost his 1-year-old kid. I think it was a daughter.
Yes.
Trent Williams
lost twins.
I think they were stillbirth. So, and you just refused to play because Greenlaw came back. You knew when you signed, as soon as Greenlaw come back, he's going to start over you. You're like, dude, so you knew what was going to happen as soon as you do it.
So I've heard a few things about this. He's fully suited up for the game. Yeah. He sits on the sideline for the entire first half because Greenlaw played a lot of it. And then the third quarter, when Greenlaw starts saying, "Oh, my knee feels weird," they ask Campbell, "Okay, Campbell, go in." And he says, "No." What do you mean, no? No, I'm not playing. Do you have a reason? No, I just don't want to. So then a few plays later, they say, "Okay, you want to go in now?" No.
Well, the bad thing was
I'm not done.
Sorry, go ahead.
And then they keep on trying, and then eventually they just go, "Okay, get out," and they get a trainer, and they lead him to the locker room.
Yeah,
he doesn't come back for the rest of the game.
And
John Lynch is trying to get him suspended right now because of his conduct on the field.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's never going to play for the Niners again, but I don't know if the Niners want to technically cut him.
They've already released him.
Oh, they have?
Yeah.
Was that today?
That was yesterday.
I didn't think they released him.
Devondre Campbell.
I don't think they released him.
They released him. Suspend him. Devondre Campbell's refusal to enter game likely to lead to suspension, not release.
Yes.
Well, anyway.
Yeah, they want to suspend him instead of cut him, because technically you suspend him or cut him, another team could pick him up, and we're like, yeah, no, we want to suspend you. There's actually some contract things in there, like if he plays like 90% of the plays, he gets like a certain amount of contract bonus, and so if they cut him, then he gets this bonuses. Anyway, it's a big contract thing. There's some. The bad thing is he quit on his team when the team needed him.
Yeah.
Now, he hasn't been great, and they've stuck by him, and they've been kind of somewhat replaced him by D. Winters, but D. Winters also got hurt. So it's like you needed him, and he quit on your team. Anyway, I don't want to talk about him too much.
Don't want to talk about him too much. I'm just mad at him.
Yeah.
I could complain about him. I could say how it's unprofessional. I'm not going to. Anyway, I feel like we've said our piece about the Niners.
Yes. So to wrap up our NFL segment, we should finish and do our Primetime Picks.
Hey-oh.
Okay. So since we haven't had a podcast for a couple weeks and recapping things, if you go back a couple weeks, we have 3 weeks of things to recap here on the podcast.
Yes.
I went 3-1 every week, so there's 3 weeks, but I went 3-1, 3-1, 3-1.
Nice.
Max went 2-2 the first week that we didn't record on, and then Max went 4-0, 4-0. Now I had a 2-game lead over him from that. Now we're up to it's where I have 40 wins, he has 39 correct, so we're back to Max is closer. He's within one of me, so we are getting close. So the week's picks that we're doing right now, we both picked the Niners
Because we thought they could beat the Rams after the
Bears game.
Also, I said to him, and I wasn't worried about the Bills game.
Yeah.
Mainly for the Bills, but also the Rams. This is just a trap game for the Bills. You just lose to a bad team, and then you just recoup after that. It's not a big deal for the Bills.
We did both pick the Bills in that game, if somebody really wants to know. So we
for
did pick,
Bills Niners.
Yeah, Bills Niners. We picked the Bills. The rest of them,
okay.
Who cares? So,
now for the interesting part.
Yes.
Is we chose every time that the Niners are on primetime television, we choose the most interesting game of the week.
Because we like to make things hard on ourselves.
And this one is the best game of the year. Bills Lions.
In some ways, if this was the Super Bowl, because the Niners are in it, I'd actually be really happy.
I don't. Who do I not want to be in the Super Bowl? The Eagles,
The Chiefs,
the Chiefs,
and the Cowboys.
the Cowboys. The Cowboys aren't making it,
We
but
don't have a problem with that. But you're like, those are the teams I don't want to see in the playoffs. Or Super Bowl. I would love to see Detroit and Buffalo. I'd probably be rooting for Buffalo more.
yeah.
But I would love to see this as a Super Bowl matchup. Now that game did it just start?
I think it's just started. I don't think anything's happened in it yet. It has just started. Bills are already scored 7-0. It's 5 minutes left in the first.
Okay, so yes, it's pretty close there.
And Bills have the ball back, and they're on Detroit's 26.
Okay.
Ooh, thank you, ESPN.com.
Yes.
Anyway, with that being said, who do you pick for the Bills Lions?
I'd pick Detroit because it's in Detroit, and Detroit I think they're on top of their game and they're playing really good. So I picked Detroit to win that game.
Well, that's great to hear because I picked the Bills.
Yes, it's lovely when we pick different. So you picked the Bills.
I picked the Bills because like I said, that's just a trap game. Josh Allen scored 6 touchdowns in a game. That's just the defense's fault at that point. Josh Allen scored 6 touchdowns in a game.
And he lost that game, didn't he?
3 of the touchdowns were him rushing.
I know.
3 of the other touchdowns were him passing.
Uh-huh.
Josh Allen had the most fantasy football points for a quarterback since 1950. That is when fantasy football started.
This is why it's like this was a tough pick. I mean, the Lions are on a roll, but Buffalo just lost and to the Rams, and it's a close game. And so, I think they're going to be ready to go. They start out really good, so they're up 7-0 here. So, I totally agree the fact that, I could have talked myself in either way. So this will be a good game. We'll see how we're doing there.
What I will say is that the Bears, their last few games against the Bears, the Lions, their last few games they won by 3 against the Bears, and they won by 3 against the Packers. Now those are divisional games, so they are always weird. So they're always closer. But with how they're playing so close against teams that are worse than them, and how they let the Bears come back into that game because their defense and offense sort of fizzled out after the first half for the Lions. I see that they could take their first loss since week 2.
Which, if you think about this in the grand scheme of the NFC, I think the last week of the season, the Lions and the Vikings play, which the Lions have been playing really good, but the Vikings are just, I think they're 1 game behind them.
Yeah, they're
that
11
could be
for the division.
For the division, after the Lions, they both could have 2 losses at that time, and you're like, so that's
NFC North is very exciting to watch, except for the Bears.
That would be
sad for you.
In some ways, I wouldn't mind that to be the case at the end of the season if both teams go in them with that tied winner take all. Probably would get the Sunday night a game for that week. Anyway, okay, so moving on. The next
So
game
moving
is,
on, I picked the Bills, you picked the Lions.
Yes.
Packers, Seahawks.
That could be another close game, not as good as the Lions and the Bills. I picked Green Bay in that.
I
one.
also picked Green Bay because
Okay.
I think the Seahawks are doing well. They've been beating the teams that are in front of them, but the teams that they are beating are the Cardinals. And let me look at the Seahawks schedule so I can remember it. They've beat the Cardinals and the Jets and the Cardinals, and then the Lions.
Yeah, see, I don't believe in the Seahawks. I think they're a good middle of the road team. I actually think the Rams might come back and win this division.
I agree.
But that's for another podcast.
So I picked
We're
that.
both picking Green Bay.
I picked Green Bay.
Okay, then we have 2 Monday night games.
The first one, actually, let's do the one that's less exciting. Who do you pick for the Falcons Raiders?
Does it really matter?
Trash versus garbage.
I'll take the Falcons.
I'll also pick the Falcons because the Raiders currently have the number 1 pick in the draft. And is there a way that they will change that? No.
Who's even the quarterback? Is it? I think Aiden McConnell got hurt.
I think it's Desmond Ridder.
Yeah, so that's where you're like, I'm picking Atlanta.
Okay. Now, divisional game, Bears Vikings.
Yes.
Can I say my pick?
Go ahead.
I don't have a reason for this pick. I have a feeling that I'll be wrong. But I have a feeling that I'll also be right.
Okay.
Give me the first Bears win in 8 weeks.
Oh, you think Caleb Williams is going to, after being walloped by the Niners, he's going to wake up and play good?
Yes.
Okay. I'm good.
Is it 8 weeks? 7 weeks. The first time in 7 weeks that the Bears have won a football
Okay.
game.
Well, I'm picking Minnesota, so that's good. I love taking these opposites. Of course, we each could split these and end up with the same, but that's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
It is in Minnesota, in case you care, but good. You picked different than me. I love it when that happens. Okay.
Anyway, I'm going to do my top 5, and I've talked.
Max's top 5.
I've talked about these teams too much. I'm just going to go through the list.
Okay.
Number 5, Vikings. Yeah, we already talked about them. Number 4, Chiefs. Yeah, they're the Chiefs. Number 3, Bills. I knocked you down a little bit because you lost to the Rams, but the Rams are a good team, so get a defense, Bills. Number 2, Eagles. They've won 10 in a row. Number 1, Lions. They've also won, I think they've won 11 in a row. Saquon Barkley does a lot of stuff, and Sonic and Knuckles of the Lions do a lot of stuff also. So I don't have a lot to say about those teams because I've already talked about them too much this season.
Number 1 was Lions.
Number 1 was Lions. Number 2, Eagles. 3, Bills. 4, Chiefs. 5, Vikings.
Okay.
I think the Niners are 22, if I would to put them on a list.
Okay.
Are the Bears anywhere close to the Vikings in the power rankings? No. That's why I picked the Bears. Anyway,
Okay.
let's do the other Christmas sweater now.
Okay, now we switch over to some NBA action and talk about our hometown Sacramento Kings. So it's been quite a time. I can't even remember what our record is since we haven't, but they are today at 13.
When did I upload the last video? Let me check.
So they are 13-3 currently. They had gone through some bad stretch at one time. I think they were 10-13. Definitely is 10-13. They've won now 4 of 5.
The last game when we recorded, I'm assuming we were recording the same time it was happening. Day before it happened. I uploaded it on the 27th, which is when they played against Minnesota. That was their first win in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games.
Yeah.
And then they lost it. So the last time we recorded, they were 8-10.
Yeah, and so now they're 13-3. So they had gone to the point where they'd gotten pretty bad. They got down to 12th in the West. Technically, right now they're still technically 12th in the West.
But it's closer. But it's a closer 12.
Yeah, they're like half a game. Technically, they're like a full game. Let's just put it this way: they're 2 games behind the Warriors for 5th. So from 5th to 12th in the West is separated by 2 games.
If the Kings were in the East, they would be the 5 seed. 4 seed? They would be the 6 seed actually, because Miami's played less games than them.
Well, the Niners are 13, or Kings are 13-13. So you think about
they would be the
500.
8th seed.
Yeah, they'd be the 8th
They'd
seed.
be the 8th seed.
Yes.
I can't do math. I'm sorry.
Okay. So, and if you think about it from all the way from the Warriors down to the Kings, everybody either has 13 or 14 wins. So that's 7 teams from 5 to 12 that all have a very similar record, and the Kings are finally starting to turn it around. I think we'd said before, in some ways, I think the offense with DeMar DeRozan, they're trying to figure their things out. The other thing is their shooting is just flat out horrible right now. And so they finally had a couple games recently
where they learned to shoot.
That they turned on their shooting things where they had 141 games against the Spurs and the Jazz where they were finally starting to hit their shots. Like, it's been crazy. Like, when they played Memphis, Grizzlies, and they lost by 5, I was watching the end of that game.
They were just shooting brick after brick after brick.
Exactly. You're like they had a lead, and Memphis, John Morant fouled out, and you're like, they got good shots. They just couldn't hit anything. Like, it was just frustrating, I guess is the best way to put it. And then they lost to the Spurs. I mean, they lost by 2 to the Spurs. Like, just can't shoot.
Can I say the most important thing that has happened in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Okay.
It started with the December 1st against the San Antonio Spurs.
Okay.
Malik Monk started a game.
Ah, yes.
That is the most important thing that has happened yet. I've heard a bunch of people on Twitter and real life and other places saying that Malik Monk should start. I have always been an advocate that we need someone like Malik Monk coming off the bench that can be that high energy type of player. But I can't.
I was always backing up Mike Brown on that too.
But I can't argue with results. After we lost the first game by 2 points against the Spurs, you win against Houston, you lose against Memphis. That's because everyone was missing. Then you beat San Antonio by, I think it's 27 points.
140 to 113.
You beat Utah 141 to 97.
44-point win.
And then you go out and beat your arch rivals.
Well, the team that had your number last year.
What's it? Your kryptonite.
Yes.
Your kryptonite, the New Orleans Pelicans, by 2 points. I don't care how close that was. A win's a win against the Pelicans for me. But Malik Monk is such a good player. He elevates this team. He is able to spread out the court with DeRozan and Fox and Sabonis. And this is just our closing lineup that we had. But now we're starting them.
Well, and so what I saw in the New Orleans Pelicans game is, because it was a close game, because the closing lineup plays more together, they're getting more used together, and their closing lineup is looking better. Even though they couldn't score as much against New Orleans, like just even the defense, because you play with each other, like your starting 5, you guys are starting to get gel together and work together good. Anytime a 5 on the court, and it makes a difference in basketball, if all 5 are working together, you get used to each other.
Yes.
And
I definitely agree.
And the starting lineup with Malik Monk, now you start the first 6 minutes of the game. There's going to be a time in the second quarter, the beginning of the third quarter, and the end of the fourth where they're all together. And now that you have much more synergy and you play better at the end of a game. And that's the reason why they won the Pelicans game. Even the defense played better, like the switches were better. Malik Monk had some really good steals. Like the end of the game, like the Pelicans had a good shot, and Malik Monk stole the ball. And Sabonis ended up with the ball because all 5 are starting to play together. And that I love that what Mike Brown was doing was trying to bring a spark plug off the bench with Malik Monk.
Yes.
And this was his last straw of, hey, the team's not playing good. We got to do something.
Fine, I'll start Malik Monk.
He had to do something. He had to do something, and he did something. The last thing in his bag, like, if this doesn't work, I got nothing. So this is the last thing I got, and we're doing it. And so far, now you take out the Spurs game where they lost by 2, they've won 4 out of 5. And I expect this to continue on. Like, they play the Nuggets tomorrow night. I don't know how the Nuggets are playing.
The Nuggets
they have
are
about
currently
they have about the same
13
record
and 10.
Yeah, very similar record to the Kings. They're right in that range where that 5 to 7 range. Go ahead.
I saw a video about the influence that this thing is loose. I saw a video about the influence that Nikola Jokic has on the Nuggets and the team as a whole. When Nikola Jokic is on the court, the offensive rating of the Nuggets is the best the league has ever had. When he is off the court, it is the worst the league has ever had. He has a plus 37 point differential of Nikola Jokic being on the court. Nikola Jokic is their entire offense. Jamal Murray is there too. Michael Porter Jr. is there too. I don't know who else is on the Nuggets, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's just Nikola Jokic. It's literally just Nikola Jokic. He's the one deciding factor of Nuggets winning games.
And the one thing, so with Malik Monk in there,
Mm-hmm.
the biggest difference I've seen, not only just the shooting getting better, but Malik Monk has created the overall team. Their assists are up like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they beat the Jazz by 44, they had 43 assists in the game. They made 57 field goals, and you assisted on 39 of them. Like, that is a crazy high assist. The game they beat against the Pelicans, they had 24. I'm looking up here. The other game where they blew out the Spurs, I know it was a really high in the assist ratio. So the biggest thing that I see is the overall of how they're coming up with the assists, or the assists are way up. They had 33 assists against the Spurs. Like that. So the sharing the ball, like the Kings offense plays good when they share the ball. Malik Monk is starting to bring that back. By him in the starting lineup, Malik Monk can score. All five of them can score.
Yeah.
But they seem to be sharing the ball better and creating assists way more with him in the starting lineup.
It's a stronger team. It's a more mature team.
Mm-hmm.
And is Keegan Murray doing good? I don't know what's been happening with
He's
him.
had some better games. Let's put it that way. I think against
The focus,
Pelicans,
the
I think
focus
he had
isn't
16
on focus isn't on him anymore.
Yeah, he's your fifth option.
Mm-hmm.
When Keegan Murray's your fifth option,
He's great at fifth option.
yeah, he's a great fifth option. But
Kevin Hurt is finally learning how to play off the bench. And
yes.
his defense is doing better because he's not playing against their starting guards anymore. He's playing against their backup guards, who are worse on offense. So
Yeah.
he's doing better on defense. So he's getting more confident in offense, and defense leads to offense, and that means Kevin Hurt is playing better.
Yes. Like, so Kevin Herter, he didn't have a great game against the Pelicans, but he had a great couple other games. But, like, if you look at the starters, carried the team against the Pelicans.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, so Domantas Sabonis, you give him credit. He had 32 points and 20 rebounds. Amazing game.
Yes.
DeMar DeRozan had, I think, 16 in the third.
Mm-hmm.
So he helped carry. That's when they took the lead. They took a sizable lead at the end of the third, and then ended up at like 14 points by the middle of the fourth.
Mm-hmm.
He had 29. Keegan Murray and Fox both had 18. So Keegan Murray had 18 points that game. Malik Monk only had 5 points. But the funny thing is, he had 9 assists. So, like, and Fox had 8 assists. So, like,
It wasn't them scoring. It was them creating offense
for everybody
else.
And so it's like, you always thought about, well, are they going to switch off? Yeah, they're going to switch off creating for everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So Fox doesn't have to create for everybody in the starting lineup. And normally you run the ball through Sabonis, but
Yes.
okay, but having Fox and Monk also creating
You
assists.
can't always run it through Sabonis.
Yes, you got to do that, and you got to run off Sabonis. And I love the action, like, and I love to see your team do this as well. It's like if you pass the ball to Sabonis, you have Fox or Monk coming off of either the DHO or the screen, and they create a drive, and then from there they do the assist. Now maybe that's back to Sabonis, maybe it's out to DeRozan for kicking, or the other Fox or Monk, whichever one it is, kick out for a shot. Or you kick it to Keegan Murray either for a shot or a drive. Like, that's the idea behind the offense. Is they talk a lot about touching the paint with the Kings.
Yes.
And you got to tell the ball has to touch the paint and then either kick out or score. The Kings are some of the best scorers in the paint. And, well, the Kings have to score off the paint there. So I think that's doing really good. Other things to point out here, just kind of stat-wise, some stats that I'm talking about in some ways, and just like your team in the last game, sometimes you just got to flat-out shoot better. It's like you're doing everything else is doing good. Like, your defense was good in your last game.
Yes.
It was decent. But the Kings are just not making shots. Now, they started making their shots until they scored 140 points against the Spurs. And
Tuggy McDermott had 8 minutes of play, and in that 8 minutes, he scored 6 threes.
Yes.
That is
Amazing.
efficient basketball.
Yes. So overall, you can go to NBA.com and look up these stats.
Mm-hmm.
They have a thing where they talk about wide open threes, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So open threes are defined as your defenders within 4 to 6 feet of you. And so you're open. The Kings are shooting 27.9% on open threes.
Worse than the league?
29th.
Oh, dang. That's a shame.
Yeah. So that's current. Like as of a couple weeks ago, they were 28th. Even with this good string they've had, they've fallen down to 29th.
Mm-hmm.
So they're shooting 27.9% on open threes. Now on wide open threes, when 6+, they're up to 40%.
But it's wide open threes, so you should be making those.
Yes. Now the other thing is if you look at wide open threes, and I couldn't pull this up quickly to get the numbers, but Keegan Murray is doing horrible on wide open threes.
Yeah.
And Kevin Huerter's doing horrible on wide open threes. So like two of the guys that like that's what you count on them is 3-point shooting, they're doing horrible. So in some ways, the Kings have been not only the assist game, but the overall thing. They just got to start hitting the shots, and they started to finally do that, and that's why they've won 4 out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
So
sounds good.
So the Kings are finally starting doing good. They're 13-13. They play against Denver. It's kind of interesting where they were finally starting to play good, and then they had the NBA Cup, and it's kind of like a mini. It's like the NBA Cup break where it's kind of it's not an all-star game break.
I'm proud of the Rockets. That's what I'm going to say. I'm proud of the Rockets this year. Because they're in the NBA Cup Finals.
No, Oklahoma City beat them. They were in the semifinals.
They made the semifinals.
Yes.
The Rockets made the semifinals. I'm proud of the Rockets. They're doing good this year.
Yes. Oh, the one thing that we didn't mention about this, the Rockets game against the Kings. So the Rockets are playing really good.
Mm-hmm.
And their whole thing is they kind of try to punk you, try to play physical on you, and beat you up. This was the game where in the second quarter, a whole bunch happened, and they got Fox mad.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get Fox mad,
you
don't want to get Fox mad.
You don't want to get Fox mad.
Well, it's the funny thing
he's a very nice, calm guy.
Yes. And the funny thing is like he even said after the game, and most of his teammates knows, you don't want to get Fox mad. Because when you get Fox mad, he goes off on you.
Mm-hmm.
This is where it's sometimes like they need to hire somebody, and maybe it's different every game. They need to go kick De'Aaron Fox in the shins sometime in the second quarter, get a staffer. Maybe Slamson needs to plow him over, knock him down. I don't know. I don't love cussing out, but like, do you need to like get in De'Aaron Fox?
Call your names.
Call them names. Let's just
say
put
something
that way.
about your wife. I don't know.
Yeah, you're like, you just need to get. When you get De'Aaron Fox mad, it's like your game over. Kings are winning. And so like the Houston Rockets got De'Aaron Fox mad. I wanted to point that out. You're like, I wish De'Aaron Fox would get mad more often. And I think he carried that over to a couple of games afterwards. But yeah, give credit to the Houston Rockets. They are playing really good. I wish the Kings were playing that good. But they tried to punk the Kings, and the Kings are like, no, you're not doing that in our gym.
I thought it was.
I'm pretty sure that was a home game.
It was a home game. Never mind. Okay.
Yeah.
That was the NBA Cup game.
Well, that was our only win in the NBA Cup, and that was their only loss in the NBA Cup.
Don't get Fox mad.
They'll get Fox mad. And they got Fox mad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, anyway. And then it's like, if you think about it, so they won that game. The Grizzlies game.
Is that the game where Isaac Jones also scored a lot? And then I saw some. Yeah, Isaac Jones went 5 for 5. He had 12 points. I saw someone say, "Who the F is Isaac Jones?" on Twitter. Just some random Rockets account. Just, who the F is Isaac Jones? Kevin Huerter. Was that Kevin Huerter? Kevin Huerter also had 13 that game.
Yeah. He was 3 for 7, which is exactly what you want. So Kevin Huerter, I guess because he realizes he's not going to get his starting job back, it took him a couple of games, but he's finally like, okay, I have to be the scorer off the bench. And I think that if you look about who he's playing, because you brought Monk in the starting lineup, Fox and Huerter play together good, which is why they played pretty good in the starting lineup. But I agree, Monk in the starting lineup is better. But Fox and Huerter are playing together in the second unit. And
like we said, Huerter plays good with Fox.
And so you play Huerter with Fox together, and Huerter's getting points because Fox likes to get Huerter open. And when the defense knows that Herter's a good shooter, even though he hasn't done very good this year, but he still he has the history of doing that. And so they know they have to stay close, and that creates extra room for Fox out there. And then Malik Monk, Fox comes off, and Keon Ellis comes in there. So anyway, I think Mike Brown is starting to figure out this rotation of where it is. I still think that, Isaac Jones, which I love the guy, love his effort. He's a great effort guy. We need you. You're kind of on your team. You're better than Isaac Jones in comparison, but you get those hustle points. Like you do all the hustle things. That's what Isaac Jones does. He goes and gives all the hustle points. Like the game, that Thursday night's game, you were hustling all over the place, getting loose balls and stuff like. That's what Isaac Jones does for the Kings. But anyway, so that's the type of thing that's like, the Kings need a player like that. I thought Jay Crowder would kind of come and do that. I kind of like the pickup of Jay Crowder. And I'm kind of interested to see what the Kings will do here, as technically we're on the 15th. So they usually say the trade season starts on the 15th and ends in whatever the trade deadline is, being in February. To get about a month and a half here to work out. I think the Kings will make a trade. I have no idea what it will be, but we can talk about that later.
Hopefully not another small guard.
Yeah, better not be. So Kings are finally starting to play pretty good. Any other
closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts on the Kings?
I think this team can win a playoff series.
I believe it. And I do like the fact that Malik Monk in the starting lineup does look like the best move.
Yes.
And so...
And if we go in the play-in, I'm confident that we can win the play-in games. That's my thing.
We should be better than the play-in game.
I said if.
Yeah. Because if you look at where the standings are right now, you're like, first off, I have no idea how Memphis is number 2.
They're 18-8.
Yeah, well, that's why they're 2. I get that. But Memphis should not be that high. Oklahoma City, I get it. Houston, okay, I somewhat get it. But then you look at in a way, like Memphis and Houston and Oklahoma City, they have a whole bunch of long athletic wings, which the Kings do not. But either way, if you just look at the overall thing, if you look at Dallas, could the Kings beat a series against Dallas? That'd be tough, but I think they could. Against Golden State, I think the Kings could beat Golden State.
Also, want to say, hey, Golden State, welcome to I think it's second half of the Buddy Hield cycle. He balls out, and then he doesn't. And then you get mad at him.
And he doesn't really fix it.
I think they've lost. They've won 2 of their last 9. They used to be 12 and 2.
And they've lost 3 out of last 3 out of the last 10. They lost 3 out of the last 10, or won 3 out of 10. They lost 7. So yeah, they're seeing the Buddy Hield effect. Denver is 5-5 in the last one. Minnesota's 5-5. Phoenix Suns is 4-6. Clippers are 5-5. Lakers are falling off at 3-7. The Kings are only 5-5, but it's actually better because I think they were either 2-8 or 3-7 in the last 10. So they're starting to get picking up there. The Kings can totally get up into this. It's just a matter of will they start playing like we know they can. So keep it up, Kings. Closing thoughts here on it. We're here on December 15th recording this. Hopefully this gets out soon as a podcast, editing and get it posted. We thank everybody for listening. We love everybody listening to our father-son coach player podcast. It's just so much fun. We'll try to get another one before Christmas, I think.
Yeah.
Not going to guarantee it, but it might be next Monday, I think, is when we have a chance in our schedules to do this and get another one out. And maybe we'll swap the Christmas sweaters next week. We'll see.
Maybe we'll find different ones. Maybe I'll wear something else.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe you wear your other Christmas sweater that you have.
One of the 2.
Yeah, you have a couple. You have a couple more variety. I only have these guys. So anyway, we'll come back next week for a Christmas Eastman Sport Report. But thanks everybody for listening.
We'll see you next time.